Some people will tell you Memphis is stuck in the 90s, others say it's more like the 2010s. It's a city that for decades has been locked in a violent feedback loop that seems impossible to break. To understand the bloodshed happening today, you have to go back to a decade that defined its streets, its sound, and its soul. A decade that in many ways never really ended. In 2023, the city of Memphis officially recorded a staggering number of homicides, with some counts as high as 397. It was a wave of violence that gave Memphis the highest murder rate per capita of any large US city that year, a rate that dwarfs places like Chicago and Philadelphia in terms of raw danger. But those stats, as horrifying as they are, don't tell the real story. To really get what's happening today, the carjackings, the shootouts, the beefs that spill from social media into the streets, you gotta look into the 90s. The decade didn't just pop out of nowhere. It began in the long shadow of industrial collapse. For generations, Memphis was a city where you could get a good paying blue-collar job and provide for your family. Factories were the backbone of the working class, and then that backbone was shattered. In March of 1983, the massive Firestone tire factory in North Memphis shut its doors for good. Just a couple of years later, in 1985, the International Harvester plant, another industrial giant, did the same, wiping out thousands more jobs. These weren't just job losses, a whole way of life got erased. The stable union careers that built neighborhoods vanished almost overnight. In their place was a giant void, filled with poverty, desperation, and a deep sense of hopelessness. Neighborhoods that were once thriving communities of working class families started to crumble. And when the legitimate economy disappears, an illegitimate one always rushes in to fill the gap. And in the late 80s and early 90s, that new economy was crack cocaine. The crack epidemic didn't just hit Memphis, it swallowed it whole. It flooded the streets with cheap, highly addictive drugs and unbelievable amounts of cash. And with this new economy came a new org chart: street gangs. Groups like the Gangster Disciples and the Vice Lords, which started in Chicago, found fertile ground in the hollowed out neighborhoods of Memphis. They offered what the legit world couldn't anymore: a source of income, a sense of belonging, and a twisted kind of protection. But this new order was built on brutal violence. Drug turf was defended with absolute ruthlessness. Drive-by shootings became a grimly normal part of life. Robberies were a daily thing, and the murder rate, which was already climbing, just exploded. The city turned into a war zone, and the soundtrack to that war was being recorded in bedrooms and makeshift studios all across town. This is where the cultural blueprint of the 90s was forged. While the rest of the hip-hop world was on the West Coast and the boom bap of New York, Memphis was creating something new, something darker, grittier, and way more menacing. It was a sound born directly from the city's grim reality. Artists like DJ Spanish Fly, the godfather of the scene, took the electronic sounds of electro-funk and gave them a bleak, gritty spin that perfectly matched the city's mood. Because they didn't have access to expensive studios, pioneers like DJ Paul, Juicy J, and Tommy Wright got creative. They used what they had, which was cheap drum machines, minimalist synth lines, and 4-track recorders pushed to their absolute limits. The result was a lo-fi, distorted sound that felt as raw and dangerous as the streets themselves. The drums were skeletal, and they often sampled horror movie scores, creating an atmosphere of pure dread. This wasn't party music, they called it horrorcore. And the lyrics weren't fantasy, they were a direct reflection of what was happening right outside their doors. Tommy Wright and his crew dropped tracks like Meet Your Maker, rapping with a frantic double-time flow about street violence over beats that sounded like they were made in a haunted house. His music was a raw, unfiltered document of the chaos. And then there was 3 6 Mafia. Long before they were Oscar winners, they were the architects of the city's new sound. Their early works on albums like Mystic Styles perfected that horrorcore aesthetic. The 90s in Memphis wasn't just a period of high crime, it was when the city's identity got tangled up with a specific culture of violence. The music didn't create the violence, but it documented it. It created the myth of the Memphis gangster. It laid down the rules of the street, a cycle of beef and retaliation that became deeply embedded in the city's DNA. This decade left a scar on Memphis that would never fully heal, and a cultural blueprint that would be passed down to the next generation. Flash forward to today, The fashions changed, the cars are newer, but the blueprint is still the same. The violence of the 2020s is a direct, undeniable echo of the 1990s. The city's record-breaking homicides in 2023 weren't some random fluke. They were the logical endpoint of a cycle that's been spinning for 30 years. That same year, the overall crime rate in Shelby County was up 6%, with major property crime jumping by nearly 16%. The social media beats that escalate into real-world shootouts are the digital version of old neighborhood turf wars. The same neighborhoods that were epicenters of violence back then, like Frazier, Orange Mound, and South Memphis, are still the hot spots for crime now. Take a look at Frazier, a neighborhood in North Memphis. It used to be a stable working class community built around jobs at the International Harvester plant. After the plant closed, the neighborhood cratered. Today, it's a community facing incredible challenges. The real estate vacancy rate in Frazier is a staggering 40%, which is higher than 98% of all U.S. neighborhoods. And it has one of the highest rates of childhood poverty in the entire country. It's the same toxic mix of systemic neglect and economic despair that fueled the first wave of gang violence in the 90s. And it's what keeps the crisis going today. And the music, well, the sound has evolved, but the soul is the same. The horrorcore of the 90s laid the groundwork for modern trap and drill music. Today's Memphis artists are direct descendants of that tradition. This pervasive culture of violence and decay isn't just an internal problem. It radiates outward, shaping how the rest of the world sees Memphis. So is Memphis stuck in the 90s? Will this idea gain national attention after LeBron James complained about playing in the city? His comments wasn't just about a bad hotel. They unintentionally exposed a difficult story Memphis has been living with for over 30 years. The violent crime, the economic problems, and civic neglect of that decade created a lasting impact that still affects the city today. LeBron James claimed that he hates playing in Memphis. He went further, suggesting the city's NBA team, the Grizzlies, should move over to Nashville. He explained his issue wasn't with the people, but with the city's logistics for a player of his stature. He even added Milwaukee and Cleveland to his list of undesirable stops. Yet the people from Memphis' pride was damaged. It was sensitive because it echoed what other players have been saying for years. Draymond Green has been vocal, calling hotel stays in Memphis rough, and recounting a story where a sprinkler system drenched the teammates' belongings with no help from the hotel. Anthony Edwards also claimed that he found stains on his bed sheets in a Memphis hotel. But perhaps the most blunt assessment came from former player Michael Beasley, who in defending LeBron described the city's reputation among outsiders.
Downtown Memphis is not the prettiest place. It's ghetto, it's hood, it's scary for a person that got money. It's just, when you don't know, you end up on the wrong side and don't know who you with. Bron ain't got time for that.
Most NBA players don't got time for that.
Yeah, but it's hard to explain to our people that even in a dispute, we cannot have a respectful conversation without you wanting to fight me. You can't lose the fight. I can't lose the fight without us wanting to kill each other.
Right.
Comments from players like LeBron and Michael Beasley tapped into a broader anxiety that the city is failing to provide the basic infrastructure and security expected in a modern American city. The city's leadership was quick to respond. Mayor Paul Young publicly invited LeBron to roll around with him for a bit, offering to show him the city's culture and powerful investment opportunities. It was a standard move in civic damage control, an attempt to change the narrative from one of decline to one of potential. However, the mayor's invitation couldn't hide the underlying issue that LeBron's comments had exposed. The incident highlighted a gap between the image Memphis wants to project and the reality experienced by visitors and residents. The feeling of being stuck isn't just about aging hotels, it's part of the city's economic and social condition. When a random person on the internet stumbles across a thriving YouTube channel that is primarily based off of Memphis gas station shootings, I would assume that most people would come to a conclusion that the city has some type of problem. So is Memphis stuck in a different decade? In a lot of ways, yeah. But it's not about fashion or nostalgia. The city is trapped in a feedback loop created 3 decades ago. The economic collapse of the post-industrial era created a vacuum of despair, which was filled by the crack epidemic and a brutal gang culture. That culture was then immortalized by a revolutionary new sound in hip-hop, a sound that gave a voice to the voiceless and a blueprint to the hopeless. That blueprint, A cycle of poverty, beef, and retaliation has been passed down through generations. You can see it in the crime stats that consistently put Memphis among the most dangerous cities in America. You can hear it in the music of its modern rap stars and drill artists, whose lives are still governed by the code of the streets. And you can feel it in the atmosphere of civic decay that even visiting celebrities can't ignore.